Hey guys, this is Jonas with JR Horse Training, and today's virtual clinic is on colt starting. We'll be using this 2-year-old filly that just came in about a week and a half ago. Some of the things that I'll mention and talk about today I've already kind of messed with, but I'd rather choose and work with a horse today that I haven't really done too much with. That way you guys can see kind of the raw footage on the do's and don'ts and kind of how we approach things. A lot of the things that I'll be touching on today, I have a mental checklist that I go through to make sure that before I even throw a leg over, I'm putting myself in a good situation, in a safe situation, and that it's a good experience for the horse. And so I've been on this horse one other time, so today I'll hop on her and move her around just as if I was having a normal session with her today. So I'll go through and talk about the things I'm using and why I'm using them, and so we'll continue and we'll start in just a bit. We'll talk about some of the things that I use and why they're essential to me in my program. I like using a lighter rope that's a little bit more pliable. Throughout the rope, I'll put different knots. That way, if I ask the horse to move out a little bit, I have a little bit of grab every time that she moves out, and I have a little bit of leverage for her. All the youngsters, I like putting boots on them. That way, they're being protected when they're moving around. Sometimes the footing's not the most ideal, but I want to make sure that they're protected. With their tail, I like tying it up. It kind of keeps it out of the way, something less for them to focus on. The rope halter, I like using the rope halter with the 2 knots at the top. That way I can control their nose left and right when I ask. Then the stick with the flag, I like using it just to control their body and get them used to different things. I use just a random plastic bag that makes a lot of noise and gets them used to things touching them throughout their belly, and they get a lot more comfortable with that. Especially when my legs start touching their sides, I want to make sure that, especially when I hop on, that if I go to touch their side, they're not just taking off. The other thing I'll use, and you'll see when I'll use this, is just a regular line, maybe about 6-7 feet long, and you'll see when this will come into play when I hop on. Then the other thing I like to use too that you don't see very often are big heavy winter blankets that I'll use and hang off the side of the saddle. I got in a pretty bad wreck a few years back, and one of my mentors told me, hey, go ahead and put these big blankets on the sides of their saddle, and you'll see how I set it up once I start moving it around with the saddle. And these blankets have a lot of weight to them, so when they're trotting, there's a lot more bounce and a lot more feel through it, and the horse will start to get used to weight and things moving around. Especially when you change direction, the blankets open up and kind of rub them in different places that will get them used to a rider or just different things wrapping around them, build their confidence up too. With the saddle, I like having a back cinch attached right off the bat. You'll see that when I put the saddle on that I'm not going to tighten up the back cinch first. I'll tighten up the front cinch, let her move around, and then I'll tighten up the back cinch as well. With the saddle pad, I'll end up using a saddle pad that's pretty light so I can move it around and not have to struggle with having a heavy saddle pad or a saddle pad that's just kind of flimsy. So I like the saddle pad with good feel. So that's the checklist for today, and we'll go through and you'll see where I'm going to start incorporating each one of these pieces of tack. Hey guys, so we'll start working with this little filly, and like I said, I use the stick and the flag quite a bit. I get them to get used to me touching them and rubbing them in weird places that to them might be kind of weird. I want to know that, especially back here with my leg or my spur rubbing here, that they're okay with it. The flies are kind of bad now this time of the year here in Oregon, so if you see her kind of kicking out, it's just the flies are flying around. And so what I do on one side, I'll do on the other side. And before I even use this tool as something to get her to move forward off of, I'm going to use this as something for her to just know that if something touches you, don't worry about it. You don't need to be moving. You don't need to get worried about it. So the more she relaxes with something touching her and rubbing her, the better. So if she wants to move her feet, I won't make a big deal about it. I'll just let her move her feet till she figures out that this is nothing to be worried about. Like right there. And she's licking and chewing. So to me, when they lick and chew, it's like a blinking light on a camcorder, the recording, and they're processing everything we're teaching them. So, I've gone through, I've touched her with it. She seems to be pretty relaxed, so now I'll start using it as a tool to get her to move forward. And it's really important that you hold your hand like this. I see a lot of people hold their hands here, and that makes it easier for that rope to slip out of your hand. So the more you hold it here, you have a little bit of leverage to kind of bump on their face and get them to soften up and give that nose. So here she kind of scooted forward. So I'll continue to do this until she relaxes. There, come here. So I'll change direction. And every time I ask her to move forward, I move forward off of that shoulder. And this little filly, again, she's 2, and she's going to have a pretty bright future in the reins cow horse. So she's going to be a little touchy, and I already know that. So there she's kind of fighting me a little bit, but I'm not going to make a big deal. I'll just keep asking. Move that shoulder. Good mare. Move her around again. Shoulder, shoulder. And that's just what I'm looking for. I'm looking for her to soften up. Right there, she kind of moved away a little bit faster, not a big deal. Shoulder, neck, there. Moved her away. Good job. Again, with these youngsters, I like to change direction quite a bit. I think the more you go in circles and circles and circles, it gets kind of mundane, and they start to get kind of bored and start checking out. So the more you can actually get these horses to change direction, the softer they're going to be, and the more they're going to pay attention to you. Change direction one last time. Now I want to know that I have that nose and that hip. There we go. And that's us incorporating the flag into our groundwork. And you'll see that once I put the saddle on, I'll be doing the exact same thing with the flag. With all my colts, when I have saddle pad, before I just go and throw it on their back, I let them smell it a little bit, let them get used to it, rub their shoulders, rub their barrel. And I don't like to sneak it on them, especially the first few times. I mean, I just want to make it seem like I've been doing this thousands of times. You know, put it on their neck, go down their back, go down their butt, you know, and it's not always going to be perfect. So I like making sure that it kind of stumbles a little bit and kind of hits them on the shoulder. So whatever we do on one side, we do on the other side. So again, same thing. Come through, rub through their butt. I just want them to get used to anything and everything. And especially the more I do it, the more they start to build trust with me. There. So we'll just leave it on. I don't know if she's doing a good job. So now I'll grab the saddle. And same thing, when I grab it, let her smell it. Let her know it's okay. Good mare. And this mare's been a little bit touchy, saddling up. She kind of humps up a little bit, has a tendency to buck around a little bit. And oh. And again, it's never always going to be perfect when you throw it over, but I'm okay with that because again, they have to get used to it. Just in case you fumble a little bit, maybe throw the saddle a little harder one time more than the other. So they come through. If she wants to move her feet, I'll let her. I'll ask her to back up a little bit. And as I'm asking with the rope halter, I'm not having a steady pull straight back. It's left, right, there you go. And that'll start to soften up her pull a little bit and those shoulders, getting her to back up. So I'm going to come through. Like I said, I'm not going to saddle her up with the back cinch just yet. I'm going to do just the front cinch. Those flies are bugging her quite a bit. So here she took a step forward, so again I'm going to ask her to take a step back. And you'll see why it's important in just a little bit. I'll saddle this up, not too snug for the first time. So again, you can see why it's important to have control of the saddle. When she wanted to shoot forward, but I was able to hold on to her and ask her to back up. So here the saddle's on, the back cinch isn't, but I'm gonna ask her to back up. And notice where my right hand is placed. I'm asking her to back up, and I can direct her around with that right hand. My left hand can say, hey, I want your hip to move that direction. There you go. And I really want to be able to back these horses up in circles. Good mare. If she fights me a little bit, that's okay. I'll just move my hand left and right, left and right. Instead of just letting them, after you tighten up the cinch, instead of just letting them go forward and shoot and buck around, I'd rather have control of the situation here. Left and right, I'll move her forward a little bit. Left and right. There you go. And this way, if this horse were to go to shoot forward, I can push myself away and get out of harm's way. So again, there you go. Softened up. Nice job. So I'll let her take a break there. Then I'll add that back cinch. We'll do the exact same thing. And the back cinch usually is always pretty snug for the most part when I put it on for the first time. I'd rather it be snug than be loose, and then when she starts moving forward, it'll just slap her up on her belly, and that'll scare her a lot more than if it was just kind of snug to begin with. Nice job. And I always give them little breaks in between, let them know that they're doing a good job. All right. So now she feels pretty soft going backwards. So now I'll ask her to move forward. And if she wants to offer me a walk, I'll let her just walk around. There's no point in asking her to rush out and move forward like that. I don't want to add any chaos to it. I want her to be as relaxed as possible. I'll ask her to trot. Change direction. And here I won't make a big deal about it. My dog walked into the round pen, kind of threw things off a little bit. No big deal. But I have enough control of her nose left and right that she ended up staying with me. So now we'll change direction. And I'm always aiming at that shoulder when I change direction. So here she's kind of speeding up a little bit, so now I'll ask her to change the direction. I'll bump on that nose. Good job. Bump on that nose, bump on that nose. Shoulder. And you'll see the more I change direction, the more she softens up. Change direction again. Shoulder. Good mare. Change direction again. Shoulder. Change direction again. Shoulder. See, I like there where she hesitated a little bit. I like that little bit of hesitation where she's starting to relax and wait on me instead of her thinking, hey, I'm going to be on my own agenda, my own schedule. Good. I like that. Nice job. So I'm going to give her a little break here, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Alright guys, this next part is super important to me in my program. I do this with every single horse that comes in my program, whether it's a colt to get started or a horse that maybe has issues that we're having to work through, or maybe even a show horse. Some horses can't really cope with mentally or physically when something kind of wraps around them maybe differently than they've ever been used to. So again, what I do is take a really heavy winter blanket, maybe get some baling twine, wrap it around the center, and I have a little loop at the top that, depending on the saddle, maybe I can adjust it, depending on the horn of the saddle, and maybe the height of the horse too, that I can go a little bit lower or make the loop a little bit bigger. So this horse has never had this blanket on, so just kind of giving you guys a heads up. So again, you guys get to see from the beginning what it's like. So, you know, I'll introduce her to the blanket, and she's had a regular blanket on in her stall, but nothing wrapped around the actual horn of the saddle. And I won't ever do both blankets at the same time. I'll do her first blanket, and as she has it on, same thing like we've done with everything else, we'll back her up. Good job. So when I send her off for the first time, I always send her off or send them off with the blanket on the inside. That way they can kind of catch a glimpse of it as they're moving. When they catch the blanket on their outside eye, they tend to explode a little bit easier, a little bit bigger. So just to make it easier for myself and a little bit easier for her, I'll send her off to the right with the blanket on the inside. You can see it feels kind of funny. There you go. See, this starts to get used to it, starts to get comfortable with it. And so there's kind of a trial and error where the blanket's hanging down a little bit lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust it and hang it up a little bit higher so it's not dragging on the ground. And you'll get to figure it out the more you do this with different horses. You can start to adjust it. That's a lot better. And again, the weight of the blanket feels kind of funny. And it wraps around them kind of weird too. So you'll see when I change direction in particular, bump on the nose a little bit, bump on the nose a little bit. Again, bump on the nose, shoulder, change direction. So see how it feels kind of funny now that it's on the outside? That's why it's important to start with one blanket. Never start with both blankets. You'll just fry their brain and get them more amped up than you need to be. Again, a lot of changing direction, a lot of changing speed. One of the trackers is coming by, having her pay attention to me. Super important. I'll bump her nose, change direction. If I feel that she's losing focus, bump, bump, bump. I don't like to hold on their face when I'm trying to change direction. It's like a game of tug of war that I'm not going to win. I'd rather bump their nose, kind of like a jar of jam that's kind of, maybe the lid's kind of tight. And kind of bump it up against the counter, loosen up the lid. I'm able to open up that jar of jam a little bit easier there. Change direction. And you can see the more I bump on that nose, the easier she gets. Change direction. One last time. Shoulder. Good. You can see now she's moving off a bit more relaxed, not making a big deal about anything. So when she's at this point, I'll change direction one more time just because she kind of scooted forward. There. Again. So now, I'll add that second blanket. The same thing. Want to make sure she smells it. Rub her with it. Come through. Put it on. And send her off again with the blanket on the inside. You can see why this is important, especially with your legs being on their sides when you're getting on for the first time. I don't want them to freak out, especially when they can catch you on both sides with their eyes. Some horses are okay when you have their nose tipped in and you hop on, but when you let their nose go straight and they catch you on that offside, they'll tend to scoot or maybe want to buck. So I'll switch direction, bump, bump, bump. like that she's loping around. She's pretty relaxed. It's forward, but she's relaxed. She's not bucking. I'm looking for her to start dropping her head a little bit. Maybe start licking and chewing a little bit. Bump her nose. Change direction. And the reason I like that they get the feel of me bumping on their nose is because if you're on their back and you're riding around and they go to buck and they maybe do something kind of funny and you go to pull on their face and you pull a little bit harder but you've never pulled on the ground, they're not going to know what that feeling is, and they might end up rearing up or getting a little bit offended by it and bucking because they don't know what that feels like. So I'd rather know and have them know from the ground that I can bump left, I can bump right a little bit harder, whether it's on purpose or on accident, but at least the horse knows what that feels like, and I know what they might do if they do feel offended or scared that I pulled a little bit harder. So I'll move around just a little bit more. You can tell there's just a little bit more in there that just needs to get out. So there's a lot of layers that we just got to peel back and make sure that we're safe before we even think about hopping on. You can see her head, she's carrying it a little bit lower, and I'm really, really liking that. No big deal, she slipped. Bump on her nose, change direction. Bump on her nose, change direction. Good mare. You can see every time she changes direction, the blankets touch her in weird spots. She's getting used to that. And I'm feeling a little bit better and a little bit safer, having that peace of mind that when I hop on and throw a leg over, she's not going to be weird about my legs touching her. So I'll give her a moment there to take a breath. I'll be looking for her to start licking and chewing in just a little bit. If she doesn't start licking and chewing on her own, I'm going to go in and manually stimulate that thought process so she can start licking and chewing and thinking, hey, what we're doing isn't that bad. And I'm going to start recording what I'm being taught. So she hasn't started licking and chewing, so I'm going to go in and do it on my own, just like you would if you're putting the bit in her mouth. So there she's licking and chewing, she's processing. They carry a lot of tension in their mouth, so the more that you can get that mouth moving around, them thinking, the easier you're going to be as you progress. All right, guys, now that we've gone through the checklist, again, this is a virtual clinic, so things are sped up a little bit. I'm still taking my time. I'm still going through the steps necessary, but just because our time's a little bit more condensed because of the clinic, the virtual clinic, things are just, again, seem a little bit more sped up. Normally I spend a lot longer through these steps, but again, I've had this horse for about a week and a half, and I've just kind of gone through these steps already with her, so she has an idea. Besides the blanket stuff that we just did, everything else she's been kind of exposed to. So the next part that I get them used to is stuff just kind of bumping on the saddle, not trying to be shy about it. One of the things that I want to know is that I can grab her tail and kind of pull it around and see how she kind of moved around. One of my mentors told me that if you can't grab their tail and kind of yank on it a little bit and have them relax, you shouldn't be getting on your horse. So I'll just hold until she relaxes. A little better. There you go. The last thing I want is for that tail to get caught on the saddle and her to freak out about it and her to scoot forward and try to buck or throw me off. There we go. So again, and she's short enough that I can come on this side, start kind of bumping the stirrup. Normally, on a bigger horse, I'll tie a lead rope to that stirrup, and I can throw the lead rope over and just start bumping on and picking up on that off stirrup. That way they get used to both stirrups bumping on their body. Same thing, I'm going to just kind of jump up and down, kind of throw my weight on her body. Grab the stirrup. Just kind of make some noise just where my legs would be. And same thing, what we do on one side, we do on the other side. So we jump up and down. Make sure I can grab her tail on this side. Add a little bit of pressure. Starting to relax. And again, her mouth is just a little bit tight, so I'm going to go through and have her start licking and chewing. Start processing. There we go. Their eye starts to relax. Their mouth starts to relax. Kind of drop their head a little bit. That's what I'm looking for. So again, I'm not trying to be sneaky. And when I throw a leg over for the first time, I'm not necessarily throwing the other leg over. What I could be doing is putting my foot in the stirrup, go up, and just sit here for a little bit, just hang out. Throw that stirrup again, touch her shoulder, touch her belly. There. And see, I like that, where she moved her one, even she gave me a step, even though it was an accident, she gave me one step, and I'll take that. Rub on her, get her to relax. Same thing. And I always bring their nose to the inside when I hop on for the first time. The last thing I want is for their nose to be forward, and then I put a foot in the stirrup and they start taking off. So the nose to the inside. See, her nose is nose is pointing forward. So she gets to see me on this side, so it's not a big deal when I actually hop on. So I'll hop off again, let her know she did a good job. Move her feet a little bit, soften her up, bump her nose. Good mare. So again, and again, this is my second time being on this mare. Good job. Just let her know she's doing a good job. Pet her everywhere. And this is why we changed from that long rope we had to just a regular lead rope, because now we can use it as a rein. And the reason I use this halter, the rope halter, when I'm on for the first 3, 4, 5 rides, is we've already got them used to us bumping left and right on the ground. So why would we switch it up when we get on their back? They already know what it means to give. So I'm just going to keep it the same for the first 3, 4 rides. I like that she's kind of cocking her leg up, relaxing. Good. She's moving around on her own, and I like that. She's getting used to my weight on her back and just moving around. So there she can clearly see me on her right side and being okay with it. There she took another step, and I felt her take a big breath, a big sigh, just let it out. So now she's licking and chewing on her own. So that's what I was talking about. The more you soften it up and you manually stimulate that thought process, the easier it'll be for them to do it. Good. And I'm not rushing any of this, so again, I'm going to hop off now. I'll do one more time where I hop on, then I'll ask her to move her feet a little bit, and if that's all I get the first ride, that's fine. Sometimes I take a little bit longer than other people, and that's fine. I'd rather be safe, and I'd rather it be a positive experience for the horse and for the owner when the horse goes back home. So again, soften up the nose. Nose to the inside. Throw a leg over. Nice job. She wants to see me on this side, I'll let her. So she'll move a little bit this way. So now I'm going to ask her a little bit to move. Good there. So she gives me that. Good there. Okay with that. Again, this is second ride, second time on her back, so whatever she does, we'll just kind of work through and figure it out as it goes. Good mare. And I like building their confidence this way. I'll ask her to move her feet again. Good job. And ideally, she'll give me a step forward or off to the side and forward. That's what I'm looking for. And if that's all I get the first ride, that's fine. That was a little better. There you go. And I'm reassuring her the whole time that she's doing a good job for me. So I'll ask her again. Good mare. Nice job. Licking and chewing again. like that the best so far. There, she thought about going forward. Again. There. I like that. Even the thought of her weight moving that direction was a good thing for me. There we go. There. Good mare. Even though the flies are really bugging her, I like that she's holding her composure. And she, she's kind of irritated by the flies, but there she goes, let out a big sigh there. But she's still staying with me, not letting those flies bug her to the point where she's thinking about throwing me off or getting tight to her back or her legs. There she goes again, licking and chewing a little bit. I like that. Dropping her head. One more step forward and we'll call it a day. There. There we go. Hey, good mare. And again, we'll build off of that. Next time I'll ask her for a few more steps, the next ride a few more steps, and we'll build off of that, and we'll just kind of make it a positive experience for her. Thank you guys very much for joining me on this virtual clinic. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and add me on Facebook, JR Robles, or on Instagram, JR Horse Training. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and email me, jrhorsetraining@gmail.com. Again, thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys next year as well.